underlying theme of value-based education for humane society, including United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which is organized from 22nd to 24th November 2024. So after a comprehensive view from the inaugural session, now I feel overwhelmed requesting Professor Ganesh P. Bagaria ji, ex-faculty HBTI Kanpur, to share his wisdom on the topic Vision for Humane Education, Fulfilling Human Aspirations, including SDGs at the root. Professor Bagaria is founding member of Manviya Shiksha Sanskar Sansthan Kanpur, or I would say Humane Education Mental Impressions Center Kanpur. This center is working on humanistic education for universal human order. He is a well-known personality. He is loved for his simplicity, knowledge, and strong commitment to introduce value education in mainstream education. He's a real guru, a teacher, mentor, and guide through his state of consciousness, an acharya, a professor by the way of his living. We get inspiration we all get inspired by him. Now I take this opportunity and honor to invite Ganesh Bagharia sir to guide us on this topic, which is actually the need of the hour. Over to you, my mentor, Shri Ganesh Bagharia sir, for your blessings.
Welcome, everybody. It's my great privilege to be with you on this occasion of International Conference on Human Values in Higher Education. As Kumarji mentioned, it's an activity going on for last around 12 years. And the basic purpose of this international conference has been to bring to the knowledge of the educators all over the world about the human education, about the holistic value-based education, the work that is being done for last 20 years and plus, and the developments that have taken place, with the expectation that they would find the meaning in it and they would be the active participant in the process of proliferating it to the world at large. My responsibility is to place the vision for human education and also a broad perspective of this whole international conference this time. So I'll read out the vision for human education, fulfilling human aspirations and addressing problems at their root. This is the main theme of this conference. I personally will talk about these three aspects. Number one, the approach that we are taking in the whole process, whether it is solution-centric or problem-centric. Then we'll talk about the holistic development and the role of education, that is for a humane society, for a holistic development of the humanity and the existence as such, what is the role of human education? And then part 3, I'll briefly present the vision for human education, which will be expanded in quite detail as we go on in the main sessions as well as in the panel discussions. The whole process of this discussion would be a process of dialogue. So whatever is said here is said as a proposal. You have to verify it on your own right. And one of the simplest way of verifying is to ask yourself whether this proposal is naturally acceptable to you or not naturally acceptable to you. So you don't have to assume this proposal to be right or wrong, but you have to verify it on your own right. And this simple way of verification is that you ask yourself whether it is naturally acceptable to you or not naturally acceptable to you. So if I say that feeling of relationship is what is makes you in harmony and happiness, right? You can all verify for yourself, right, whether the feeling of relationship is naturally acceptable to you or feeling of opposition is naturally acceptable to you, whether the feeling of relationship brings you in harmony and happiness or feeling of opposition. So this is something each one of us can verify on our own right. Further, it is a process of dialogue, a dialogue which starts between me and you to begin with, but it soon becomes a dialogue within your own self. So most of you who have gone through this process would realize that to initiate the dialogue, we have this workshops and conferences and all that. But once this dialogue is initiated, this dialogue goes on within your own self. And this dialogue is between what you are and what you really want to be. Right? So what is your natural acceptance and what you are at this moment? For example, what is naturally acceptable to you is the feeling of relationship. But when we look within and inquire, we'll find that many times, or probably most of the times, we are there with a feeling of opposition. Right? So this dialogue will start. Okay. So the purpose of all that we are sharing with you is to initiate and to reinforce this process of dialogue. So with this process, we'll proceed. So number one thing that we want to discuss is about the approach to fulfillment of human aspirations and resolution of problems. Is it solution-centric or problem-centric? So if you look at this as human aspirations, at the level of individual, what we want is happiness, prosperity, and its continuity. And at the collective level, what we aim at is a humane society in which well-being of all is ensured generation after generation. So this is our aspiration as a human being, individually as well as collectively. But if you look at the concerns, look at the problems that we are facing today, right? We have the problem of poverty, right? We have the problem of inequalities, the rivalries in relationship, and so on. So you can go on listing these problems. There are so many of them. But broadly, you can say that there are many problems, right? And these problems are there at all levels. Broadly, the individual level, the family level, the society level, the nature level. And we are all troubled by these problems, right? And we want to get rid of them. But if you ask yourself that if we look at the aspiration that is being in a state of harmony and happiness and prosperity and continuity at the individual level and well-being of all at the level of society, are we making effort with clarity of our aspiration? So if you look back and see what efforts we have been making, is it in the context of this human aspiration? Or we are trying to solve these specific problems, right, that we are facing. And even at the level of problem, what are we doing? Are we making effort to resolve the root cause of problem, or just to get rid of the symptoms? So 3 questions. One is, are we addressing to these basic human aspirations? Number 2, if we are dealing with the problems, are we dealing with the problems at their root, or we are only trying to deal with the symptoms of the problem? So if you are not having a good health, you are suffering from a disease, are you able to do something to get back to the health, or you are trying to cope with the disease, right? So there are 3 possible approaches. It can be many, but 3 we have listed here. One is the problem-centric and problem-solving. So most of us are busy with this. Then solution-centric, problem-solving, and solution-centric, solution effort. Right? There are 3 possibilities, and and we are working with the third one, right? That is, we are trying to find out the solution overall, and we are making effort to work with these solutions rather than just focusing on the problems. Right? So we are making effort for resolving these problems rather than coping with the problem. If you look at the current situation, for example, the situation is that we have lack of clarity of human goals and lack of effort for fulfillment of human goals. And therefore, we have lack of fulfillment of human goals. This is the problem, right? And we can see these problems, right, at all levels, as I mentioned. And we are trying to get rid of these problems. So efforts are being made for problems at every level, individual to nature. Many people are making many efforts, right? At the individual level, at the family level, at the organizational level, at the level of so many movements that we see in the society today. Look at this, way we deal the problem. I'm taking one example. There is a lack of fulfillment in relationship. And we think that this is so because lack of communication between the people. Right? So the effort that we made to get rid of the problem is we developed the telephony. Right? And today we have mobile phone almost in every hand. Right? But the technology is successful. Almost 80%, more than 80% population has a landline or mobile phone. So technology is successful. But what has happened? The transmission has increased, but has the communication increased or decreased? Has the relationship improved or not? What do you think? I remember one of these conference in Bhutan. The Minister of Communication was there to inaugurate the conference. And after the lunch break, we were sitting together and talking. And he said, tell me, what do I do? I have 4 sons, and each one of them is, having a mobile. And when we are there sitting together, everyone is busy with his mobile. How do I communicate with them? It must be the same situation everywhere, right? So the problem is being solved at the level of technology, right? But in essence, it does not get solved because we are not addressing the problem at their root. So these two possible approaches, the problem-centric approach and solution-centric approach. At the level of problem-centric approach, we focus on the problem or only the symptom. At the solution level, we are focusing on the symptomatic relief or temporary relief. So the focus is on the problem. Okay. If you look at the solution-centric approach, there are 4 aspects. We have the clarity of all-encompassing resolution. We are making effort for all-encompassing resolution, and that is the main focus, and that is something which we have to go on working. Then in the light of this all-encompassing solution, we can make the analysis of the problem that we are facing today, right? And we can make effort to get rid of the root cause of the problem. So the main focus is on 1 and 2. And in the process, whenever we encounter a problem, we'll make an analysis of it and try to work to get rid of that problem at its root. Can we? This will be sufficiently exemplified by these 3 examples on SDG, health, and education. In fact, these are the topics of the panel discussion that we are going to work on in a very extensive manner. So, but I'll just take these as an example and also introduce the whole kind of set of panel discussion that we are going to take up in the conference. So, if you look at the health, for example, take this SDG thing, working to promote on programs to increase GDP for SDG 1. So SDG 1 is now no poverty, right? And what are we doing for no poverty? We are trying to increase the GDP. And we think that this GDP increase will solve the problem. If you look at the outcome of what has happened out of this, this gives you the data about the consumption level in 1990 here and then 2017 here. So the left side is 1990, right side is 2017, that is 27 years of data. The consumption level of the lower income group or low income group was 2.5 tons per person per year. In 2017, it has become 2 tons per person per year. And it has become 27 tons per person per year. So GDP has increased significantly, many-fold, but the consumption has increased for the high income group from 20 to 27. But for the low income group, it has come down from 2.5 to 2, which means the difference, which was 8 times, has become now 13.5 times. And it makes a lot of difference, because this high income group is anyway consuming very high. Okay. So it doesn't work. Right? The poor are becoming poorer and rich are becoming richer. What we are suggesting instead is this solution-centric approach is working for a system that aims for prosperity in every family. And that will call for so many things. Education so that everyone can rightly identify their needs. Right? Number 1. Number 2, they are there with a feeling of relationship. Number 3, every family has the skills for sustainable production, can produce something that is required. Then we have this relationship-based exchange system, not exploitation-based exchange system, right? Focused on ensuring the fulfillment of need. And over and above that, we have the right utilization, right? If all this is there put together, there will be feeling of prosperity in every family. So this would be the solution-centric approach. So when we are having a detailed discussion in the SDG panel, we'll look into all this, in further detail. But my purpose was to just kind of demonstrate that the approach that we are taking is the disease in terms of medicine and in terms of treatment. But if we have a holistic vision, right, all-encompassing solution, then we'll look at the health as health of the self, health of the body, and health of the environment. Right? And at the level of health of the body, we'll start with this intake and the daily routine, the labor and the exercise, the regulating the breath and the body organs, and all this will be able to keep our body in good health. But if despite all this there is a problem, right, there is some disease, then we take to this number 4. Okay. So this also we'll discuss in more detail in the panel. The third part is the education. Today we are focused on skill education. Right? If we look at the education from a holistic point of view, right, from this all-encompassing regulation, we'll have holistic value-based education. And this holistic value-based education will ensure these 3 things: right understanding in every child, the capacity to live in relationship with other human beings, the capacity to identify the need of physical facility, the skills and practice for sustainable production of more than what is required, right utilization of physical facility, and all this ultimately leading to feeling of prosperity. In the light of this, when you look at this problem today, right, the right understanding is not in the focus, the relationship is not in the focus. Even regarding the physical facility, the core focus is to accumulate more and more, to consume more and more, rather than to produce what is required and utilize it rightly. So all these are the examples of focusing on the problem and trying to resolve the symptoms of the problem rather than the solution. So if we focus on the solution, so these 4 aspects I said: clarity of all-encompassing regulation, effort for all-encompassing regulation, problem analysis in the light of all-encompassing regulation, and effort to get rid of the root cause of the problem. These are the 4 things that we will work on with this solution-centric approach. Now the question is this approach enough or something more is required? Number 2, all 4 steps are necessary or something can be left out or added. The third one is important: what would be the order? If we are doing all these 4, what is going to be the order? We'll start with 3 and 4 and then go to 1 and 2, or we'll start with 1 and 2 and time to time, as and when necessary, we'll go for 3 and 4. What do you think? We'll work with 1 and 2 and then as and when necessary go for 3 and 4. Right? Yeah. So what are we doing today? That's the question. So essentially, our approach is this solution-centric approach, where we are trying to develop a shared vision and action for human education, and through that, the emergence of a humane society in which the well-being of all is realized generation after generation. Right? And in order to do this, what Kumar Sambhoji explained, in detail, that such an effort on human education will be holistic, universal, rational, verifiable, and humane, leading to harmony. And this ultimately will result into the individual fulfillment of individual goals for happiness and prosperity through the development of human consciousness, resolution of problems at their root, and ultimately a human society in which the well-being of all is ensured generation after generation. So this is the approach that we are going to take all through, right? And this is the approach that we have been taking in holistic value-based education. and all the work that we are doing in the academia as well as in the society. So with this background, I'll briefly talk about the holistic development and the role of education. Right. So this holistic vision that we are talking about, the all-encompassing resolution that we are talking about, right? We'll briefly discuss this holistic development and the role of education in the process. So what is the role of education? That is the question. The proposal from our side is this: the role of education is to facilitate the development of competence to live with definite human conduct. So if we ask ourselves, do we want to live with a definite human conduct or indefinite conduct? So we all want to live with a definite and human conduct. But then the question is, are we able to ensure this? Out of these three types of fear, which is prominent for you? Fear of natural calamity, fear of wild animals, fear of inhuman behavior of human being. What do you think? Third one, right? Yeah. We have anyway overcome most of these problems of natural calamity, and wild animals, they have to now save themselves from us. The fear of inhuman behavior of human being is what is predominant now. Is this on increase or decrease? Increase, right? Yes. Literacy is increasing or decreasing? Increasing. The fear of inhuman behavior of human being is also increasing, right? Now, all this put together, what does it mean? It means that literacy is increasing, but the fear is also increasing, isn't it? Which means that literacy is increasing, but human values are declining. So this is what Supreme Court has to say, right? That education in general has failed to ensure the human values, right? So it says the education system in the country has failed to achieve its objective and it has to be reformed immediately. It is unfortunate that today education, instead of reforming the human behavior, in our humble opinion, appears to have failed to achieve this objective. Right? So this is what the Supreme Court of India has to say. Now, if you look at the definiteness, basis of the definiteness of the conduct, we'll see all units around us exhibit definite conduct except human being. So a plant, for example, a tree, for example, right? An animal, for example, has a definite conduct. So all units have definite conduct except human being. Can you see that? Yes. And that is the source of fear from human being. So if human being also had a definite conduct, there was no fear, right? But because of that indefinite conduct, we all have fear from the human being, and that is on the increase. If you look at the basis of definite human conduct, for trees and plants, the conduct is based on their seed. For animals, conduct is based on their breed. But for human being, their conduct is based on their education and sanskar. Right? So if you provide a human education, they will have human conduct. If you provide an inhuman conduct education, then their conduct will be inhuman. So if we are getting as an outcome from our education an inhuman conduct from the human being, what do we conclude? The education that we are giving is human or inhuman? So this is a question which all of us have to ask ourselves. So this is what we were saying, that the role of education is to facilitate the development of the competence to live with definite human conduct. So when we are saying human education, this is what we are talking about. We are talking about an education which will ensure developing the competence in every child to live with definite human conduct. So in that case, what is expected, right, from the education, and who is expected to provide this education? Parents, teachers, and the society in general, right? Is there need for such education? Yes or no? Yes. Are we able to ensure it? Yes, no. If we want to provide such education, what would be the basic requirement? That is what we want to explore next. If you look at the human aspiration, that is how we want to live and its fulfillment, there are three basic needs. One is the need to survive. Second is to live with human happiness and prosperity. We just don't want to live, we want to live with happiness and prosperity. And third is we want to live with continuous happiness and prosperity. Isn't it? To survive, what is required is physical facility. To live with happiness and prosperity, we do need physical facility, but over and above physical facility, we also need fulfillment in relationship. And to live with continuous happiness, physical facility is required, relationship is also required, but right understanding is also required. So all three things are required. Can you see this? What do you think? All three of them are required, or you can do away with any one of them? Yeah, that question I'm going to ask next. That if all three of them are required, what is going to be the priority? Right? So right understanding and relationship are also essential for human being over and above physical facility. So all three of them are required. With physical facility alone, it will not suffice for you to live with continuous happiness. Right? In fact, one interesting example that we keep taking, that if you are sitting in an air conditioned room and the air condition is working very properly like this, at 21 degrees centigrade, but the person with whom you are sitting, you have a feeling of opposition. What will be your state of happiness or unhappiness? Unhappiness, right? So if you reduce the temperature of the AC, it will not make you happy, right? Yes. So relationship is also important. And similarly, if the other person has gone away and you are sitting alone, but there are contradictions in your thought, you will be happy, unhappy, unhappy. So you need right understanding, right understanding so that there is harmony in your thought. There are no contradictions in your thought. So all three are required. Is something redundant? Is anything more that is required apart from these three? So these are the questions which you have to ask yourself. Are we taking care of all three, or are we largely taking care of physical facility alone? What is the condition? Yeah, largely taking care of the physical facility. Right. Third, does physical facility ensure fulfillment in relationship? Does it ensure right understanding in the self? So if we have enough physical facility, will it ensure fulfillment in relationship? Will it ensure right understanding in yourself? No. Okay. So all three of them are required, and we can't do away with any one of them. Now the next question is that of the priority. Right. So what is the priority? If all three are required, what would be the priority? Working on the high priority facilitates the actualization of the lower priority. So that is the idea, that if you are working with the higher priority, it will facilitate the fulfillment of the lower priorities as well. So let's take this now. We can see that without right understanding, we cannot ensure fulfillment in relationship. Similarly, we do not know how much physical facility we require. Therefore, right, irregardless of how much physical facility we accumulate, we feel deprived. So this is the problem. If we do not have right understanding, this relationship and prosperity will not work. The problems in the family are more due to lack of fulfillment in relationship than lack of physical facility. Therefore, relationship is more important than physical facility. And thirdly, physical facility is necessary anyway. So if you ask yourself, what is going to be the priority of these three, right? Let's see. What do you think? What will be the first priority? Right understanding. Next, the relationship. Third, the physical facility. Right. For the time being, what we want to assert is that all three of them are required. Right? We can keep this priority issue open. Okay, you can go on exploring. And now we can see the outcome when we are ensuring all three and when we are only working with physical facility. So now let's look at the case when we are not ensuring all three, but our major focus is on the physical facility, which is the case today, right? If only physical facility has become our priority, that is what our whole civilization is busy with today, then we can see that for animals, this physical facility is necessary, right? And it is largely adequate for them. For human being, it is necessary but not adequate. So you would not be able to decide what amount of physical facility will ensure your fulfillment. Right? That most of us realize today. For us, physical facility is not enough. We need relationship as well as right understanding. And that is what we were just telling before. So if you are working only with physical facility, then the right understanding is missing. Therefore, fulfillment in relationship is missing. Therefore, we are unhappy within, right? And we are making others unhappy. This is what is happening. Similarly, if we do not have the right understanding, we do not know how much physical facility is required, and therefore, irregardless of how much we have accumulated, we continue to feel deprived. And when we continue to feel deprived, we exploit others. So there is deprivation and there is exploiting and depriving others. So if we are focusing only on physical facility, that is where we all end up. With all our good intention and with all our hard labor, right? With all our science and technology, ultimately we end up in being unhappy ourselves and making others unhappy, being with a feeling of deprivation and therefore exploiting, and depriving others. Whether we are in this situation or not, you can all explore and find out for yourself. As a result, we have two kinds of people. One set of people are lacking physical facility, unhappy and deprived. Right? The second type of people are having physical facility, but they are unhappy and deprived. And you can find out where you are, in one or in two. Right? And you can also see that where you want to be is the state where you are having physical facility, you are happy and prosperous. So you can ask now yourself, where do you want to be? At 1, 2 or 3? You are in a state of, lacking physical facility, unhappy and deprived. Having physical facility, unhappy and deprived. Right? Having physical facility, happy and prosperous. Third, you want to be, right? Where you are now? 2. Yes. In fact, the whole civilization, what it does at the most is take you from 1 to 2 and not to 3. So we all sympathize for those who are in 1, but we are also in 2. Right? So all our effort will take us from 1 to 2 and not to 3. What we are suggesting is that ultimately we all want to be in 3. Right? And our education and our all development has to ultimately take us from 1 to 3 and 2 to 3. So this is what is being said, that if we are working with physical facility alone, it will not suffice for human being. Therefore, living with physical facility alone is living with inhuman consciousness. Right? We used to call it animal consciousness, but many people feel hurt. So we thought that we'll call it inhuman consciousness. Okay. This is at least, you will accept that if we are only working with physical facility and we are unhappy and deprived and making others unhappy and deprived, this is not human consciousness. Right? On the other hand, if you are working with all three in the right priority, that is right understanding, relationship and physical facility, then this is where we are. And with this, with right understanding and fulfillment in relationship, we are in a state of happiness ourselves and we are relating to the other in a mutual happiness manner of mutual happiness. Similarly, if we have right understanding, we know how much physical facility is required, right? And if we are able to ensure more than what is required, then we feel prosperous and we think of making others prosperous. So it leads to mutual prosperity. So with right understanding, relationship and physical facility, we are able to ensure mutual happiness and mutual prosperity, right? And that is what is desirable, right, for each one of us as human beings. So if we are living with this, we are living with human consciousness. So to live with human consciousness, to live with definite human conduct, right, to live with fulfillment of happiness and prosperity, which is our basic desire, we have to have all these three: right understanding, the fulfillment in relationship, and the necessary physical facility, or rather more than the required physical facility, so that we have a feeling of prosperity. So with these three, we are living with human consciousness. And now you can see that the holistic development would essentially mean that we get transformed to this state of living with human consciousness, living with happiness and prosperity for ourselves, and living with happiness with other, happiness and prosperity with others. So what is naturally acceptable to you? To be on the bottom left here or the top right? What is naturally acceptable to you? To live with inhuman consciousness or to live with human consciousness? Human consciousness, right? And therefore, I mean, you can also ask where you are today, right? You must have already asked by now. Okay. Are we making effort for this transformation from inhuman consciousness to human consciousness? And this transformation is essentially what we are calling as holistic development. So the holistic development is basically the transformation from inhuman consciousness to human consciousness, from a state where we are in a state of unhappiness and deprivation to a state where we are in a state of happiness and prosperity ourselves, and working for the happiness and prosperity of others. Do we need to make effort for it? Of course, yes. Physical facility alone cannot ensure this transformation, regardless of extent of this increase. Human holistic development is ensuring of all three, and we'll explore further into the role of education in this holistic development. So now we can see what is going to be the role of education or human education for ensuring this transformation. This is interesting data which I just want to quote, without getting into much details of it. If you look at the food availability, in terms of physical facility, if you look at the food availability, we are producing 6 times what is required for all the people on this earth. Right? This is the UN data 2011. It says we are already producing 6 times what is required for all of us. And the global food wastage is 1/3 of the total production, which means the wastage is enough to feed 1300 crore people. And we are only less than 800 crore people, right? So even the wastage is enough to feed 1300 crore people, right? But still there is hunger. By now you understand why there is hunger, despite the fact that we are producing 6 times what is required for all the people on earth. And some of these questions, I think they're very difficult to read in this background, but I'll read it for you. Are we conscious, have we understood the right utilization? Is it just a question of production, or a question of distribution, a question of relationship, a question of understanding? Right? All these questions you can ask yourself. Okay. Is there a need for human education? So if we are already producing 6 times and still there is hunger, what is required is the feeling of relationship. What is required is the right understanding. So what is required is the human education, right? Interesting. This is a book you must go through, very old book, 1976. I personally went through this book, when I was very young, and this transformed my life because I read that it says, by the time you finish reading this book, and presuming that it takes you 6 hours to read, 400 people would have died of hunger. Right? And this is not because there is a lack of physical facility, but because the other half is consuming for the first half who is deprived. Okay. Interesting book. So basically we are working for this transformation, for this holistic development, and the role of education is essentially to enable the transformation to human consciousness. Right? So it is the education which is going to play the pivotal role in the process of this transformation, right, to holistic development. And that is what we are calling by the name of human education. So essentially, this human education will take care of, certain things which we will describe now. So one thing is established, that what we aspire, all of us, is the holistic development, which means we want to live with happiness and prosperity in continuity for ourselves, and we want to ensure this well-being of all for everyone in the society. And in order to do that, what we need fundamentally is the human education. Right? So let us see what this human education would look like, very briefly. So human education will have 3 things. It will ensure right understanding in every child. It will have the capacity to live in relationship with the other human being. So a child who is going through this process of human education will have the capacity to live in relationship with other human being. And third, it will have the capacity to identify the need of physical facility. It will have the skills and practice for sustainable production of more than what is required. It will have idea about the right utilization of physical facility. And ultimately, all this put together will lead to feeling of prosperity for him. Interesting, if you look at the kind of items you have in your house, and if you ask yourself, are you ensuring the right utilization of it? Right? If I ask you how many pairs of clothes you have, most of you will not even have the count. Our experience with around 200 workshops is that if we ask this question to the people, to the students, to the teacher, they are not able to tell how many pairs of clothes they have. Okay. How many they need is anyway a very difficult question to ask. Okay. So we are not ensuring right utilization. In fact, many things we buy and bring to the house and we don't even open it, It's just lying there, isn't it? Yeah. If you look at the present status of education, the first one is missing. The right understanding in every child is missing. The capacity to live in relationship is also missing, right? As far as physical facility is concerned, the identification of the need of physical facility is missing. You can ask yourself whether you have been able to identify the need of physical facility. The willingness to produce by way of labor is also missing, right? Labor is, last thing that you want to do, right? You want to become a white collar. The right utilization is also largely missing. The core feeling that is generated is to accumulate more and more. to consume more and more rather than to produce what is required and utilize it rightly. Interestingly, in IIIT Hyderabad, where we started this course formally in 2005, we were asking these final year students, outgoing students, what is your expectation from the job? Right. One of the students said, good salary. Good job means good salary. Second, job satisfaction. Third, if possible, no work. Okay. So that is where we are, right? So rather than to produce what is required and utilize it rightly. So you can check whether we are here or here as educators. So if we are working with the left side, that is human education, ensuring right understanding, the relationship and the physical facility, this is how it will look like. So this human education will ultimately ensure right understanding in every child, capacity to do justice in relationship with human being, right? And physical facility with the rest of nature, so that he can live with happiness and prosperity and be a source of happiness and prosperity for others. Now you can see this right understanding will essentially calls for understanding the harmony at these four levels: harmony in human being, harmony in family, harmony in society, harmony in nature and existence. Because these are the levels in which we all live, knowingly or unknowingly, right? And therefore, if we want to be in harmony and happiness, right, in continuity, we have to understand the harmony at all of these levels. So that is the meaning of having the right understanding. That is understanding of the harmony at all these four levels. And then if you look at this relationship and the physical facility with rest of nature, it has to do with living in harmony with human being as well as rest of nature at all these four levels. So basically the content of human education would be: one, understanding the harmony at all these four levels, from self, human being, to family, society, nature and existence, and then living in harmony at these levels. So we have to equip the student to understand all this harmony and to live with this harmony, right? And this living with the harmony will include living in harmony with the human being as well as with the rest of nature. Living in harmony with human being will result into mutual happiness. Living in harmony with rest of nature will result into mutual prosperity, our own prosperity as well as the prosperity of the rest of nature. And if we have this human education, it will ultimately lead to human consciousness and to a human society, right? So you can see that if you have the right understanding and you expand on your relationship with human being and with the rest of nature, right, what you will have is a human society. So right understanding in this self, which has to do with understanding all this harmony, then justice in relationship with human being, starting from family to world family, and then participation in the larger order with nature, from family order to world family order. And if we work for this and we develop that competence to work with this, then ultimately we will become the source for a human society. So that is how the human society will emerge out of this human education. This is being discussed in detail, in the keynote address 2, where we are going to talk about harmony in relationship, then keynote address 3, where we are going to talk about harmony in society, and finally in keynote 4, where we are going to talk about how this human education can be implemented, unfolded step by step. So ultimately, if you see, that is where we want to be, right? Individually, we are here when we want to go there. We are in a state of inhuman consciousness and we want to go to the level of human consciousness. When we are in inhuman consciousness, we have an inhuman society with all these details which will be discussed, in one of the keynote address. And similarly, when we are with the human consciousness at the individual level, we have a society, a human society with all those details, of fulfillment of human goal in continuity, ensuring right understanding, right feeling in every individual, leading to happiness, prosperity in every family, and so on. So essentially, this human education will lead to transformation in the individual, and it will also lead to the societal transformation. So the human education ultimately lead to the individual transformation to begin with, and ultimately the societal transformation. And that will be, looking like this. This can now be, kind of reiterated like this. The crucial role of education in the transformation is that we start with the human education, that is holistic value-based education that we are talking about. It will lead to a holistic human world vision in every child going through it. The child will develop the human values and the competence to live in relationship with other human beings. In the light of this, he will have the skills for living with human conduct. So when it comes to living with human conduct, you need that vision, you need the value, and with that you need the necessary skills, both at the level of behavior and at the level of work. So if we have all this, he will have the definite human conduct, and the people living with definite human conduct will give rise to a human society. So that is how the whole unfolding will take place, right? And of course, to begin with, we have to start with this holistic value-based education. So you can see the crucial missing link is this holistic human world vision and the human values, right? And that is what has to be the forerunner of this human education, right? So that is the effort that we are doing in the name of universal human values, in the name of holistic value-based education, right? Which was described in the beginning by Kumar Sambhoji, that it started with a very small effort, but slowly it has been, kind of getting the momentum, and now we have it in the higher education in a fairly big and systematic manner. And we have also started with the school education, right, and also in the society in general. So all these possibilities are opening, but certainly it is not, kind of small task. It's a big task which all of us have to take the responsibility and make it, successful. So with this, I will just sum up what we have talked about and then leave it open for the discussion. The basic aspiration of human being are continuity of happiness and prosperity. Right understanding, relationship, and physical facility with correct priority are required for fulfilling the basic aspiration. Working for all three with the correct priority, ensuring fulfillment of aspiration, basic aspiration, is living with human consciousness. Right? This is what we have briefly discussed. The holistic development is transformation to human consciousness. The role of education is to enable this transformation. For this, the education has to ensure right understanding in every child, the capacity to live in relationship with the other human being, the capacity to identify the need of physical facility, and the skills and practice for sustainable production. of more than what is required, leading to the feeling of prosperity. The parents, the teachers, and society have the responsibility of providing such education. At this conference, we want to share our experiences, discuss the vision, and chart a way forward. So this is the purpose of this conference. 3 things we said. Whatever has been our experience, we want to share with you. We want to discuss the vision, that holistic world vision, and then we want to chart a way forward where this can reach to every human being on this earth, or maybe beyond. Just as Buddha was telling, that ultimately it has to reach to the whole universe. So that is our expectation. With that expectation, I welcome all of you to participate in this process of international conference to begin with, and then finally take this journey of human education, right, to every human being. So with that, I'll open it up for question. So any question is welcome.
So, as you shared, with lack of holistic worldview, we are not sure of the solutions that we work on, handling various challenges and get caught into the loop of piecemeal solutions, and then again a bombardment of new problems. But education in its right purpose, when pursued with an open heart and mind, it leads individuals towards enlightenment by fostering wisdom, compassion, and deeper understanding of themselves and the world, which you call as solution-centric approach. Heartfelt gratitude to you, sir, for a valuable session for us. But before we get into the questions from our participants, it's my pleasure, or it is rather our pleasure, to have with us Dr. Nilesh Patil, who is director of MIT with us. And I would like to welcome, sir, on behalf of ICHV HE 2024 team. We appreciate your presence and invite you to share your reflections and observation. And we have 8 minutes for it. After sir's reflection, we can get through the questions from the participants. Sir.
Yeah, we can take up questions or we can take up other observations as well. Yeah.
Ji. Sure, sir.
Very good morning. And thank you for inviting me here. I'm very happy to be part of this conference. And at the outset, I would like to thank Ganesh sir, for very insightful presentation and holistic way of entering into all the details of what is the state of affair at present in the country, in the nation, in the education field, as well as society. So in his presentation, what I found is he started with basic human aspirations. He dealt very in depth with what is meant by human aspirations. Mostly human aspirations, in my view, are attributed to the external factors in most of the cases, because right from the childhood, when we look around what in the society, our neighborhood, our parents, all these things basically determine our aspirations. So I think that is the main point he has mentioned there, is about understanding, the right understanding about the aspirations. Because an individual, if he or she doesn't get into within his own understanding of the self, it is very difficult to identify. It is very difficult to understand his own aspirations. And if the aspirations are right, I think the clarity about aspirations can be the beginning point. That is my takeaway from this particular session. It begins with aspirations. Then in the second point, he mentioned about problem-centric, but problem-centric and solution-centric and then solution-centric, but efforts wherein he mentioned about the shared vision, exploring, and then identifying a right approach and going ahead so that it will be sustainable, it will be in harmony, and it will lead to a kind of state which will be continuous, like a flow, and without, say, resistance. Because in today's world, when we are, whatever the state of affair is there in all activities of our society, that might be attributed to our aspirations, especially Sir has mentioned about the difference between need and greed. So understanding about the need, and then so all these things are creating internal as well as external resistances, and those resistances are creating or increasing disorder and chaos. And I think that is my takeaway, that these increase in disorder and chaos is attributed to lack of understanding about oneself, lack of understanding about our society, lack of understanding about our family. So it begins with clarity. He has stated in his second part that lack of clarity about human goals. He also stated about lack of clarity of about not addressing the root cause of the problems that we are coming across. So all these things are basically related to lack of clarity about yourself, basically, and then about society, then about the external part of a human being. He also stated about the SDG goals. He also stated about health and education. Especially, my takeaway here is not GDP, but everyone, nobody, there should not be poverty. So that is the key takeaway here. So he has given a new goal, which leads to a more holistic approach. Unfortunately, we are not thinking about it. So I think that is the very important takeaway as far as I am concerned, because he mentioned about not only about the health of the body, he mentioned about health of the self, which may not be considered as health of the body. So it may be health of the soul and health of your mind. And he also stated about health of the environment, which is ultimately, so all these things are interdependent. They are going to impact each other. And if we don't look into this holistically and don't work upon this holistically, nothing is going to lead in a right direction, which he termed as definite conduct. I think definite conduct he has given as the that he has given as a goal. So how a human being can have a lead to definite conduct, so that it will be in harmony. And thereafter, he also stated about different types of fears which are going to affect the behavior of human beings. He also mentioned about survival, being happy and prosperous, and living in continuous happiness, which I think, as I have already earlier mentioned, that like a flow-like thing continuously without any internal resistance. Because if we are in a right and natural path like river flow, so I think that is going to lead to harmony. So in the third part, he mentioned, he has given a goal that this is the journey of what is the role of education in development of in the holistic development of the students or youth of this nation, wherein he he explored that how in what is meant by inhuman consciousness and what is meant by human consciousness, and how the journey or transformation of holistic development will lead to human consciousness. So in that, he has also given a vision for human education, wherein again it begins with right understanding, capacity to live in relationship, and capacity to identify the need of physical facilities, which I term as which will lead to sustainability, wherein he stated that how 700 crore people are there on the earth, around approximately 700, and we are producing for 1300 crores. However, many of our sisters and brothers do not get food, and they remain hungry. So that is the point which touched to me, the statistics what he has given there. And I think sustainability, by way of understanding, right understanding, by way of understanding and being sensitive towards yourself, being sensitive towards society, and being sensitive towards the nature, will definitely be a better understanding, right understanding, and will definitely may lead to sustainability and continuous happiness in the lives of people. And if we in education system can imbibe, inculcate, and give these approaches to our students, and we at least see and ensure that their thought processes are initiated in this direction, because ultimately, if they go on in right direction as far as their thought process is concerned, I'm sure that the generations to come will be different thinkers, and they will be leading towards a better future for not only the nation but also to for the world. So, and finally, what I would like to say here is, we have already entered, and we are entering very rapidly into the era of artificial intelligence. So I believe that the role of human values, the role of human education, holistic education, is becoming more and more vital, because AI as a technology may deteriorate that particular aspect which Sir has pointed out very rapidly. So I think it is the responsibility of all education system, all educators, to look into this, because if we don't look at this particular aspect at this point of time, the future will be very difficult, that we may not be able to come back and become human. So I once again thank you for inviting me, and once again thank you to Professor Ganesh ji for his nice presentation. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Nilesh sir, for your valuable inputs, reflections, and observations. Now I can see lot many hands raised. We can provide them the mics if we can at the earliest, so that we can have their questions and they can have the opportunity to interact with Ganesh Bagharia sir. So it is Amit Bhim Rao ji, a professor from Kolhapur. Sir, you are being provided with a mic. You can now unmute and raise your question or observation. Amit sir, your mic is unmuted, but we are not able to hear you. Till he resolves his issue of internet and we are able to hear him, we have Dr. Charu Sharma. She is Dean from Pathankot. Dr. Charu Sharma. Siraz Hirani ji from Ahmedabad. Ji. Siraz Hirani ji and Dr. Charu Sharma, you both have mics. You can unmute and speak. Dr. G. Lavanya She is faculty from Chennai. She has raised her hand. Yes, please. Dr. Lavanya, you can unmute your mic and speak, please. I don't know if there is some technical glitch. And
Am I audible?
Ji, sir, you are audible.
Okay. I will raise a common question that is asked during the workshops also, that when we mention the three basic requirements for a human being to lead a happy and prosperous life, and that is right understanding, relationship, and physical facility. So where does the health come into picture here? So I'll address this question to Ganesh ji, because this is a common question asked during the workshops or the classes also.
Yeah, this is a very valid question that generally when we say right understanding, and then we say relationship, and then we say physical facility, it appears that we are not talking about the health, right? So one possibility is that we include the health as another kind of issue. But precisely speaking, if you look at the human being is coexistence of self and body, right? So when we are talking about right understanding, we are talking about right understanding in the self, right? When we are talking about relationship with other human being, we are talking about relationship between oneself and the other self, right? When we talk about the body, it is basically the rest of nature. So we have the consciousness and we have the material. So when we are saying rest of world, it has to do with the material world, right? So the body comes under the rest of nature. Okay. And when it comes to the rest of nature, including the body, then we have to identify our relationship of the self, the consciousness, with the rest of the nature, including the body. Then at that level, identify, and understand that particular unit in the rest of nature. In this case, it is the body. So I will try to understand the body, right, what it is. And when it comes to fulfillment of my relationship with the body, or for that matter, relationship with any unit, there are three things to be done. Number one is nurturing that unit. Number two, protecting that unit. And number three, ensuring the right utilization of that unit. So these are the three things, right? Any unit I am relating to, these are the three things I will do, right? Number one, I will ensure that it is in harmony, by itself. It is by way of its self-organization. For that self-organization, I have to do something to nurture that unit. For example, body. To keep the body in good health, I have to, nurture the body. I have to provide the food, right? The clothes, for nurturing the body in terms of ensuring the self-organization. Then I have to protect the body in terms of ensuring that its self-organization continues to be as it is, right, and not disturbed or violated by other units. And number three, because it is a unit which is a kind of something I am interacting with, I would ensure that its participation in the larger order is also ensured. So for example, if I look at the body, I can see that the participation of the body with respect to the self is to give expression to the self, right? The right utilization of the body or the participation of the body is to help the self to get information from the world outside right? So that it can ensure the right understanding and the right feeling in the self. So these three things I'll do, when I relate to the body. I will nurture the body, I will protect the body, and I will ensure the right utilization of the body. And if I do it, the health of the body will be ensured. So that is how it will work, But if it is considered that, this health should be mentioned exclusively, we can certainly do that when we are working out the details. So in fact, when you look at this human goal, at the level of society, we have included this as one of the goal. Okay. So the happiness is a goal, the prosperity is a goal, health of the body also we have included as a goal. But if you look at this framework, right understanding, relationship, and relating to the rest of the nature, there the body, health of the body can be included as a part of ensuring my relationship, my means relationship of the self with the body, right? And by way of nurturing, protecting, and rightly utilizing my body, I can ensure the health of the body. That's how it will appear.
Yeah.
May I, sir? Ganesh ji?
Yeah.
Professor Parashar from AKJ itself. I'll dwell upon the same point which Dr. Manishi also said, that most of the times finding a solution is probably we resort to the piecemeal solutions. In other words, we try to meet problems as a crisis management. So how do we, as a human being, how can we ensure that while finding a solution, we should keep the three priorities in mind? That is right understanding, relationships, and of course, the need of physical facilities. I think most of the times you may probably agree, and most of my colleagues here also, normally we resort to the piecemeal solution and crisis management. Am I right, sir?
Yeah, true. But core thing is that are we approaching through a solution-centric approach or problem-centric approach? What we are doing today is that we are going by problem-centric approach. What we are suggesting is the solution-centric approach. And in this solution-centric approach, in the very process of education, right, the child who is going through 10 years of education or 15 years of education will already be equipped with right understanding and right feeling in relationship. This can be done, right? Between 10 to 15 years of education we are giving. And it should be possible if you are looking in terms of the human education or holistic solution. Then 10 to 15 years is a significant time to ensure right understanding and right feeling in every child before he takes the responsibility of running his own family, interacting with the society, and contributing to the society. We are not doing that, right? So right understanding, right feeling can be ensured right in the beginning. Third thing is the right skills for production or for handling any behavioral issues also, right? A broad understanding of that, and therefore the training, what we call, to practice it, can also be given in 10 to 15 years. Now, such a person, when you are interacting with the family, with other human being, with the rest of the nature, he will already have this holistic solution at the background. And whenever there is a problem, he will not look at it in piecemeal, right? He will look at it in the light of that holistic solution, which he already has at the back of his, mind and back of his personality. And therefore, try to find the solution to that particular problem in the light of this holistic, background. So it's not a question of when problem comes, I start looking at the solution. I already, I have been oriented through my education of 10 to 15 years to have a holistic understanding of the existential reality, right? Understanding of my relationship with other human beings as well as with rest of nature. And I have the skills to be with that fulfillment in relationship with human being as well as with rest of nature. That competence is being developed right in the process of education. That is what we are saying, that the capacity to live with definite human conduct will be developed in the process of education. Right? Now, if that kind of readiness is there, then whenever I see a problem, okay, I see that problem in the light of this, So what we were saying, we have the clarity of all-encompassing solution. We are making effort for the all-encompassing solution. In the light of this, whenever there is a problem, I can make a wholesome, analysis of the root cause of the problem and try to resolve that root cause of the problem so that this problem is taken care of, in its at its root itself, and it does not persist. So that can be done, if we go for this human education. One of the major outcome of this would be that we are living with the solution, and whenever we are facing a problem, we can make a better analysis of the problem at its root and work for solving that problem at its very root. Like we took this example of GDP thing. So now no poverty, you think, can be taken care of just by increasing GDP. It doesn't work. Now we will realize that it is not just a matter of physical facility. It's a matter of having the right understanding and right feeling, both those who are having more and those who are having less. If those who are having more have the right understanding and right feeling, the problem will be immediately solved. Right? I mean, just imagine those who are consuming 27 tons per year per person, if they have the right understanding, right, they can share it with 10 people. Right? So,
Namaskar, sir.
So I'll just take a minute to complete. So what I'm saying is that we will be, kind of pro this thing, active, rather than being reactive. Yeah. Yes.
Sir, in our human values education system, how do we connect the various philosophies of different religions of the universe?
Yeah. In fact, if you look at the AKTU, this thing, syllabus, AKTU is offering a set of higher courses as open elective, okay, which deals with this, this issue of human values in different darshan. Like they have, UPTU has a course called Human Values in Vedic Darshan, which includes all the 6 darshan of the Indian philosophies, right? Then it has a course on human values in Madhyas Darshan. A course is being developed as human values in Bauddha and Jain Darshan. So like that, it is being already done, And AICT also has offered this minor degree, okay, in which all these courses are the integral part. Right? So along with doing their BTech in any engineering, they can opt for a minor degree in human values, where they have to do 8 courses, okay, one course every semester, and they can get a minor degree in addition. There it includes all these issues, that if you look at particular Vedic darshan, how the human values are dealt with in that, and how this is incorporated in the universal human value that we being talked about, right? Similarly, the Bauddha and Jain darshan, the Madhya darshan, we are also doing some work to develop this course on human values in Christianity as well as in Islam. Yeah.
Namaskar, sir.
And our observation is, interestingly, that if you delve deeper into any of this philosophy, any of this darshan, you find that in a sense they are talking about the same thing. For example, 3 basic things. The truth, the realization of truth is one thing which is common in all the philosophy. Second is the feeling of love, right? Feeling related to everyone. And then compassion. So when we have the feeling of love, we have compassion for everyone around, and we live with that compassion, or express that feeling with compassion to everyone. So truth, love, and compassion is something which is there as the base of any philosophy, that you talk about, any darshan you talk about.
Thank you, sir, for your nice presentation. I'm Professor Neem Kumar Jain from Delhi.
Let me just intervene as the time of the session is over. So,
Just a small question.
yeah,
Just a
we
small-
all are much keen on having this kind of
Uh,
opportunity to
it's
interact
a-
with Ganesh, sir.
It's a food for thought
Um,
for everyone. What are the parameters for happiness or prosperity or both? Can we quantify these?
Yeah, we have tried doing something on it. Not much work has been done, but some work has been done, and I think some more detail can be worked out. So whatever homework we have done, we'll pass it on to you, and you can go through it, and you can also help us to sharpen it further. But very preliminary work.
Please, sir, let me tell that many of the YouTube spectators are also interested to ask questions, and few of the questions are recorded here. But because time constraint is there, that's why I'm handing over to Manishi ma'am. And we promise these viewers that we take these questions in next sessions, further sessions. Thank you.
there are many questions in Zoom chat box also, and many hands are also raised. So, but then keeping in mind the 3 precious days that we have to go through with all these discussions, we'll get further opportunity to interact with this keynote speakers. Then we'll get the questions resolved that we have within us. So, thank you once again. A heartfelt gratitude to you, sir, and all the delegates present here on Zoom as well as the YouTube platform with us, all the volunteers. Once again, thank you for making it successful. But then before we close with this session, the question appears, are the proposals shared in the keynote address applicable in our day-to-day living? Are they practical? So we shall get through the experiences of such individuals and institutions who practice the UHV proposals in their personal, professional, and social life. In the next session, which starts from 12 p.m., 12 to 1:30 p.m. in 4 different rooms. So we'll meet we'll have the short break right now, and see again at 12 p.m. till 1:30 p.m. in the experience sharing session. Thank you everyone.
Thank you everyone.
Thanks so much. Namaste.
Namaste.